Well, welcome back, everybody, to Music Talk. I'm Dave,
I'm Mike.
or also known as Animal.
And Aminim.
Depends on how many drinks you had. This week, we're checking out the latest CD. This came out in January of RiversIDe, and it's called. It's kind of tough to see it.
Yeah, right here on the screen, right there.
Yeah,
right there. Yep.
He actually said you can call it Identity if you want to, but a lot of people are going with ID.entity. But
well, that's the way it's printed.
Yeah, he said he just wanted to break it up because that way he could put ID in RiversIDe just like the ID in Identity. So that's why you see the ID in RiversIDe the same color. That's pretty cool. The album cover is interesting and it makes sense when you go through the record and all the words. I mean, it's this guy here or woman or person, or is it a person? Not sure. Could be a fake person. Not sure.
It's an AI, man.
A lot going on inside of a person there.
It's an AI.
Or a fake person. We're not sure. Which is what this whole thing's about, right?
Well, see, on Picard, they got a bunch of those people too. They're shapeshifters.
Yeah. I hear you. So it's a really nice CD cover, man. I mean, it's like a book. Really.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And this is the bonus edition, I guess. I don't know if everything comes like this. So anyway, you go through, you got all these nice pages, lyrics to everything, and all the pictures kind of correspond to the lyrics. So if you're going through here as you read it, you'll see that these pictures kind of work well with the concept of the record and each song. So that's pretty cool. Yeah. I think it took a lot of time in that, which, anyway, got all the words.
Well, that tells me, though, that this band has a huge following worldwide, because that's a lot of money. That's a lot of production right there.
For sure, man. And I mean, it's not even it's not a small book either. I mean, there's like,
oh, wow, they got all the credits in there. Vader sticks.
Yeah. Yep.
Wow.
Got everything here. So it's pretty cool that they probably helped pay for a lot of this, the sponsors and stuff. So that's cool. DW drums, all that stuff.
I'm gonna have taught that drummer that he needs to go to Vic Firth sticks. I mean, Vaders are okay, but Vic Firth's better.
Hey, whoever pays, bro. Whoever pays.
Well, ain't none of them paying me, so I'm telling you what I prefer.
So this is an Inside Out Records too. We get a lot from them.
Yeah.
So here's your CD 1. Got the cover on it. CD 2, it's got the guy's face there. So it's a double CDs.
Okay, so side 1 on one disc, side 2 on the other disc.
Yeah, you got the 7 songs, and then on the bonus discs you got 8 and 9, and then the 2 single edits.
2 single edits. Okay,
correct. So there's 4 on the second CD and 7 on the first one. So RiversIDe, I've heard of them through the years. Heard a couple songs. I've always liked them. In fact, me and Mike actually watched a video that we were going to post on here, but we just couldn't seem to get Zoom to work with us. So we never did post it, but we were going to do like a reaction review, but the thing was so jumbly and all that it just doesn't work when you're sitting in 2 different sides of the country. If we would have been in the same room, we could have watched it and reacted to it, but it was something called a story of our life, or story of life, something like that. It was like 6 months or better ago. So I was expecting that to be on this record, but it wasn't. So it must have just been a single they put out. But then when this came out, I was like, great, we could finally do a review on their CD. And I'm glad we did. Now, I will say, these 4 guys on this record, I'm not even going to try to butcher their names because I can't pronounce them.
You can look them up.
You can look them up. I can show you the picture of it, and you guys can all try to pronounce it yourselves. I really feel like I would do an injustice trying to, but these are the guys right here. There's their names.
Yep.
Anyway, they originally had another keyboard player that played with them for a couple of years, and then he left. And then this guy came in, which I think his name is McCall. I'm not sure. I'm not even going to try it again. So then the other guitar player passed away in 2016, and the guy on this record joined the band in 2017, toured with them, and this is the first record he played on with them, with this guitar player.
Huh.
So, now he was on that video we saw. Same guy. So, but yeah, it's one of them bands where they don't get a lot of, I mean, I don't hear a lot about them, not a lot of recognition, but man, they're a fantastic band, great band. If you like prog rock, they're they're not, I mean, they are prog rock, I guess, but they don't do prog where you get lost in it, right?
Well, that's what I was going to say. You know, I started counting on a lot of the songs, and the worst time signature I heard him do, which isn't bad at all, it was a 6/8 time signature, and that's it. That's the and you know, when you hear it though, it sounds much more complicated. You know, I mean, but it's not. It's just a 6/8 time signature.
Well,
And
maybe you can help me out on number 2 when we get to it, because I had 2 different weird time signatures going in there, and even 3 that I couldn't figure out. I mean, I could do them by feel, but I couldn't figure out what they were. When we get to those songs, we'll talk about them.
okay, okay.
So the first song starts out number 1, Friend or Foe. And to me, it's kind of like the only song like this on the record. It's a little different sounding. You know, I felt like it was kind of new wave type, you know, with the synth sound, had that 80s synthesizer sound going.
Yep,
But
yep.
man, I really love the bass sound on it.
Yeah.
The drums, I mean, the drums had that 90s or 80s beat to it even, but it was so
Yep.
clean, very clean.
Yeah.
You know. So with this record, it's a concept that he said that he was writing more or less about the identity of the band, as well as relating it to people and social media and the world today. But mostly he said it was supposed to be about how the band is represented. So when he did Friend or Foe, he was doing it, you know, when they did the song, they were just kind of like, you know, he wrote it on an acoustic originally, and then he said one day they were messing around, and he started playing the drum machine. So he got the drummer, whatever his name is, to play that beat, and then he started doing this little thing, and then the synthesizer, the keyboard player, whatever his name is, started playing with him, and then it ended up being this sound. So he said it worked out good because, you know, a lot of people are going to be like, is this really Riverside? So with the song, it's like, is this a fake person, or is it a real friend or foe? So it kind of blended together with what he was doing, because, you know, the band usually doesn't sound that way.
Right, right.
So this song was kind of like a, you know, are we real? Is this really us or not? That's up for you to interpret, you know. So, and then it blends in well with what he was, you know, talking about with, you know, people on the internet. You don't really know who they are. Are they real? Are they your friends? Are they not your friends? You don't really know, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, I heard some looping going on and stuff, but that was only like with the keyboard type situation, you know, where it enhanced
Yeah.
what they were doing. It wasn't there as a base or a foundation. It was just an enhancement.
Yeah.
And I mean, used in the right way, it works. And for obviously for this, I mean, I felt like it worked.
Yeah. Now it reminded me a little bit of that song from Aha, Take On Me, you know, with the rhythm of it.
Yep, yep.
So, but then, and then at the end in the middle there, where it gets that really cool, edgy bridge, you know, they started to do, then you could tell that they were getting ready to, all right, we're getting ready to show you what we're really about at the end of that song, right? I mean, you kind of felt them leading you in that direction. You know?
Yep.
So, but I thought it was a great song. And the single edit on the bonus CD is basically identical, except for they cut out about a minute and a half of the beginning, you know, where it's building up to this point. But anyway, so then we get to number 2, and from here 2 on, this is 2 to at least 6 is where you really start to get the prog stuff coming.
Yep.
Feel like. And number 2 is called Landmine Blast. And this is the one that really had me intrigued for time signatures, because I wrote down, was it like a 10-4?
Well, see,
9-4?
I was puzzled by it too when I first heard it, because the way the drums and everything are being played, and it's almost like that one Yes tune, yeah, and that's what I was thinking of,
Yeah.
and then I got to counting it, and first I was going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and I'm like, wait a minute, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and it's like, there it was. It just all was right there in a 6/8 time signature. I was like, okay, it's like,
because I mean, the way they were doing it, it almost sounded like they switched times too, like from the intro to the verse. And
I thought that,
I couldn't comprehend it, which is why I'm not really a drummer. But I mean, I didn't get lost in it. I
right.
could feel it, but I couldn't tell you what it was.
Yeah, it's very deceptive. They really didn't change,
No,
but it was
I guess
all
the syncopation and all as well.
it was all the accents on the upbeats and the ands and the does of the beats and it was also it was done on purpose.
Oh yeah,
It's like, way back in the day when people started doing rounds, singing songs in rounds, and then all of a sudden, well, they figured out, like Zeppelin did that da 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 da, and it just all works out,
right.
every
It circles
every
back. Yeah,
every 6 measures, everything matches up, or every 4 measures or whatever it was. Uh, so they did a lot of that. They played a lot of tricks with timing, which was in reality was in a very simple format when you started realizing how to count it.
yeah.
But it is like a blast when you hear it. It's like, oh my God, listen to that,
Right. Which all ties in with what the name of the song is and what they're actually talking about in the words, even. So here, I mean, the tone of the guitar was fantastic on this.
Yeah, yeah.
As as it was anyway. But here they're talking about now that you've entered this world, because now everybody's like on the internet and you don't really expect what's happening. You're exposing yourself, but then you don't really find out the ramifications of what happens being in this new world.
Right,
Everything's starting to change as well too. So now you're here, and now it's going to change, and you really don't know what you're getting into. And it really reminded me of why this timing was the way it was, because you really don't know what you're getting into with the timing.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So, I mean, that's what's so interesting about this record is they've thought this whole thing out, from the album cover to the songs to the time signatures. It's unbelievable how well this thing's put together.
Yeah.
And it doesn't lose you, right?
Well, I got to tell you something. Yeah, it's a great Sunday morning wake up album to put on and make your coffee and sit down, because it starts off so, it's just so many mood changes, and these passages were stretched out, but they weren't boring. You know what I'm saying? You had these mellow passages, and then they would roll right into steamrolling you, and it's like, there you go.
Well, even Marius, whatever, the guy that wrote most of it, him and the keyboard player, I think, did pretty much the whole writing, but I think it was mostly the bass player, singer. He even said that most of their records are evening records, and this is like the first record that he considered a morning record.
Wow.
Because you can actually, you can put it on in the morning and start your day with it. But most of them, the intricacies of it, they usually made more for the evening time.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty funny that you said that. So
never even gave that a thought.
But I mean, the first song definitely is a wake up type song, and then like it brings you, yeah. So I mean, the second song reminded me, it had a little bit of, like, the part where they're doing the do 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 do.
Right.
Kind of reminded me a little bit of Saga in there, sort of, And then there's some parts that reminded me a little bit of Marillion, So we're getting all the stuff. We're getting all the prog stuff,
Yeah.
And then we get to number 3, Big Tech Brother, which I was counting these out, and it seemed like this one did take 2 time signatures to me. I felt like it was a 7/8, and then it went to a 6/4, or even 6/8.
I think you're right on that one. I think they did do, but it was still
it was a smooth transition.
Yeah, and it's they were time signatures that have been used very often in writing, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
and I guess that's why I just never felt lost listening to it. It kept me very interested, but
Yeah.
I never felt lost.
Yeah, and this particular song, Big Tech Brother, um, another great song. I felt like, again, I didn't get lost. It seemed to me like a little yes-ish, a little bit, right? But
Yeah.
it kind of reminds me of Yes. There's a couple of songs I hear that reminds me of Yes when they didn't have John Anderson, when they had the guys from the Buggles, right?
Right.
That's more of the Yes era that I'm hearing here when I say they sound like Yes, you know?
Well, and pretty much what I was hearing through a lot of this stuff, I was hearing a lot of Asia
Yeah.
input in there.
Yeah.
I mean,
Because
the
I mean,
vocals
John Wetton's vocals are close,
and
not far
and
off.
and the keyboard sounds were very reminiscent of Asia, which leads you right back to Yes, and a little bit of ELP.
Yeah. And
Um,
and you know what's cool is, I mean, I don't know what kind of bass rig he's using or what kind of bass, but he's got that Rickenbacker sound going because
mhm.
I love the fact that it's real presence there. It's real trebly, so you can actually hear bass. You know, it's not so sub low that it's just whoa. He's actually playing the bass where I like it. That's the register I like the bass in. I always try to keep that same frequency going, and to
Right,
me,
right.
he nails it on his record too.
Yeah, yeah. I was and that's what I say. I'm again, I never got bored with this album at all.
Yeah,
And I heard so many influences. It and it wasn't I don't believe it for 1 minute that they set out to do this. I just think that this is just the makeup of the band. It's the personality of the band.
yeah,
It sound like Yes, sound like Asia, a little bit like Emerson, Lake and Palmer. The singer actually sounds a lot like what's his name with the Moody Blues.
yeah,
You know, I mean, he had that vocal quality going,
yeah.
and the way they colored the voice, and barely any effects on the voice, and I love that. You know,
Well, there's a
and
couple of times, like one song later, I'll talk about where he does this. It sounds like Roger Waters,
yeah,
his voice. He
yeah,
puts that effect on it, and I'll tell you about that when we get to it. But yeah. So number three, Big Tech Brothers, kind of about, we've allowed ourselves to be controlled because you go sign up for an app or something, and it just says agree to these terms, blah blah blah. You kind of click on it. That's why it intros with that. It's the listener, please, whatever it says.
yeah,
So, I
yeah.
mean, how many times have you clicked on something to agree and you didn't really read it, So now, you're kind of allowing yourself to be controlled by these apps and stuff
Or
that
you click on something, it's a blank screen, and
right.
the longer you leave it blank, the more whatever they're doing on the other side is copying your
That's absolutely correct, man. And that's
your
kind of what
ID.
he's saying here too,
Yeah,
He's like,
exactly.
you know, and again, he's using that as his band where they don't want to be controlled. They want to do what they want to do. So if they want to play it out a first song on their record that sounds new age, then they're going to do that,
Yeah.
and that's the way this whole record's going, is
Mhm.
what we want to do. And it just happens to be what's happening in the world. Right. And then we get to number 4, which is Post Truth. And this one reminds me a lot of late 80s, early 90s Rush. It
Yeah.
sounded a lot like that kind of Rush,
Yep. Yep.
Great riff, and had this weird sound on the bass in the middle that kind of sounded like bubbles. It was kind of like a whoop, 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 you know what I'm talking about? I don't know what
Yeah.
that effect is. I always call it the bubble effect.
Well, it's an envelope filter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
was really, really wild.
It reverses your attack, right there.
Yeah, it's just
Al-
weird.
It's almost like playing the track in reverse, listening to it. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Woo,
he was doing
Gucci,
that
woo,
same
John.
riff.
Well,
Yeah, that same riff, but it was like a whoop, 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 whoop. And I'm like, okay. And then they kicked it right back in, and you know, then
yep.
it ends with this little piano passage that kind of readies you for the next song.
Hmm.
Because you've been rocking now for a little bit. You're prog rocking, right? And
Yep.
that song really post-truth, what it kind of reminds me of, or what he was saying a few things about, is that we jump to conclusions a lot by reading headlines, and we don't really read the story. So therefore, we start lumping people into these categories without really knowing what we're talking about, because you just read a headline, what do they call those things? Clickbait, right?
Yep.
So you read this clickbait, you're like, oh yeah, you're just a blah, blah, blah. And he's like, you need to stop putting people into categories and start thinking more about the individual person.
Right. Right.
Just like the band, right? Everybody kept putting them in a category, but they're like, you know what? Again, if we want to play a new age song, we're going to play a new age song. Stop telling me what we're supposed to do.
Right.
Which is a lot about, what's going on. So anyways, that was my take on it. And just with a couple of things that he had said about it. So now we get to number 5. And this one is the longest song on the record. This is a 13-minute song.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first saw the 13 minutes, I was like, well, here we go, right? Gonna be that prog song that I'm gonna get lost on, not gonna know where things are going. But it really turned out not to be that way. And the first time I heard it, I thought it was not one of the better songs on the record, but then the second or third time I started really listening to the song, right? So it's called The Place Where I Belong, and it's got a lot of mellow parts in it. But man, the guitar player starts doing these layers, and he starts painting this landscape that is just ridiculous, because the more I hear it, the more I hear what the guitar player is trying to do. And it just takes you to another place. And it's reminded me, this is the one I was talking about that sounded like Roger Waters. So in the middle there, he takes this vocal ride up, and I swear it's just like on Animals, the album Animals. I want to say maybe Dogs or something. I can't remember. But anyway, it really reminded me a lot of Pink Floyd. Even some of the guitar work reminded me a little bit of David Gilmour at points,
Yep.
And I mean, this song goes through so much up and down. He picks it up, and then the dynamics are ridiculous. And he's noted on here that he plays the piccolo bass. And I believe that middle section after the slow part, I think he's playing a lot of that stuff on that piccolo bass. Because piccolo bass is basically a shorter scale bass that's tuned an octave higher.
Right.
And when you hear those high things going on, it sounds like the guitar, but I think it's the piccolo bass,
Well, you put some big old round wound brass wound strings on there. There you go. Man.
I mean,
I know it chews up your fretboard and everything, but
yeah,
it's like playing with barbed wire.
Yeah, it's not bad. You can put flat round on there too. But yeah, I mean, and this song here is basically about, trying to get out from under labels. You want to be who you are, but people keep trying to keep you in a cage. Again, band, social, modern world, and he talks about how everybody is divided, and everybody's telling you what to do. And, he's saying, we're not the same. So you need to stop treating everybody the same. Just let everybody be who they are and let them find their place. And that's basically what this is, and he's also talking about the pressures that they're always trying to put on people to be the best that you could be, or be the best of everybody, not the best you could be. And he's like, well, maybe sometimes being the best that you are is enough to help people. And that's what he was kind of going there on that song. So a great song. It's 13 minutes. I mean, it does sound like a long time, but again, it's not one of those prog 13 minutes where in the middle of it, it's just stuff everywhere and you can't.
Well, yeah, they got stuff everywhere and they got movements that are going on. So, I mean, you could literally stop the song after a movement and then later on pick it up with the next movement and think you're listening to a totally different song.
Yeah. Yep. But this one, I didn't feel that. I felt like it was a good mixture of dynamics and what they were doing, and it flowed right in. And 13 minutes went by pretty quick.
Yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
Because once you start really digging into the different layers, it really made it a fun song to listen to, and started reminding me of a lot of stuff, that I was hearing from Pink Floyd and things like that, which I see you got the shirt on. So
yes, I mean, what can I say?
right?
Just
That's what
biggest
Animal
selling
would wear.
album ever. Biggest selling album ever.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of this is, this album kind of reminds me of Floyd in some points,
Well, Yes, and Pink Floyd. I mean, they definitely laid the groundwork for prog bands to build on.
Yeah.
And fortunately, there hasn't been this overabundance of prog bands, but the ones that have attempted it, everyone I've ever heard has actually done a pretty good job. I mean, but
Yeah.
you can't help but sound like somebody else
That's right.
doing this movement.
That's right.
So
then we get to number 6, and this is called "I'm Done with You." And the intro reminds me of Kansas a lot. And it comes in, with all that organ and just reminded me so much of Kansas. But then when it gets to the verse, it reminds me of Yes Again back in those days with, Trevor Horn and Jeffrey Downs,
yeah. Well, I mean, you could actually even go to a King Crimson type.
Yep, I agree. Yeah,
situation there. I mean, when they were doing that trilogy, the red and the blue and all that, whatever it was they were doing
right.
at that time.
Yeah,
Buford was still with them, and
yeah.
But yeah, I see. I see what you're saying there.
And then the chorus here, there's a part in the chorus where it reminds me of that band, The Call. I don't know if you remember that band, The Call.
Yeah, I remember.
But his voice sounds just like that guy in the chorus. I'm like, dang, man, I can't think of the name of the song, but it's something about the walls come down or something like that. But just reminded me of The Call, just when his voice went to that register.
Right. Didn't Paul Rogers sing with The Call for a while?
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't believe so, because I think the singer was the main guy in the band.
Really?
Yeah.
It seems like, I don't know. Yeah, I'll have to look into.
You might be thinking of The Firm.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, which.
Yeah, right. But then this song here, kind of the words are about, they're done with people who don't like you now because, you don't agree with them anymore and all this crap, So, you're not, they don't want you to be your own person. They want you to be who they want you to be, right? Because you don't agree with me now, so I'm not going to be your friend, right? Mm-hmm. So he's like, look, I'm done with you then. If that's how you're going to be, and if that's how you're going to put our band, then we don't need you either. You know what I mean?
Right.
Same kind of thing. Great song. Love this song. Number 7 we get to. This is, called Self-Aware. Yep. This is really like a Porcupine Tree sounding song to me.
Yep.
Especially the vocals sounded a lot like a Porcupine Tree song, Steven Wilson. It was a little pop sounding, sort of like the first song, which I'll go back to that. And then it goes into this little Police Rush sounding reggae part in the middle, right? So kind of reminded me of something the Police would have done, or Rush. I think the Police kind of steered Rush in that direction. So I'm going to give it to Police. The Police was, started bringing that reggae thing.
Well, that, and oh my God, I mean, synchronicity. That changed music. That album changed music.
Well, Stuart Copeland, when he started bringing in the rim shot and the reggae sound and drum style, it just changed everybody, and it influenced a lot of these 80s and 90s new wave bands, what they were doing too. So this one here, this was kind of about, you're starting to be aware of who you are now, right? You've been through all this crap, right?
Yeah.
All this lockdown stuff's over. You really want to just keep yourself away from people. You want to be living out in the woods somewhere, and you don't want to mingle, but you need that contact, right? So this is where you're like, I want to come out. I want to make contact. We do need to rebuild these communities, but I'm kind of happy where I'm at. So just don't try to mess with me, and I won't try to mess with you, but let's just be together again, which is, self-aware. We know who we are. This song kind of reminded me like a new age again, sort of like the first song. So it takes you back to the beginning and saying, look, we know who we are. We're going to do that style again if we want to, because we are who we are, and you ain't going to tell us that. And if you want to be part of our community, ride with us, right?
Yeah, exactly. Live and let live, I mean, come on.
Yeah. And that's all it is, that's all he's trying to do. And that's all the band's trying to do even.
Yeah.
So then we get to 8 and 9, which are on the bonus CD. Number 8 is called Age of Anger, which is kind of crazy because it's kind of like a whole mix up of all the intensity and anger and stuff that's going on through the record, right?
Yep.
Going in all these weird directions. It's instrumental. And then number 9 is called Together Again. And it was kind of mellow, and then it gets a little edgy in the bridge section, but it reminds me of like, okay, we've been through all this crap. Now we're together again and we're happy. You know, here's a happy song. So now we're happy together.
Yep.
And then of course the last two songs we talked about already. The single was the single edit for Friend or Foe we talked about, and then the self-aware edit, which is about 2 or 3 minutes shorter than the one that's on the record, just so that they could put it out as a single. Either way, if you listen to just the single versions of those two songs, they're still good. They're still good songs.
Oh yeah.
I like it better though as the whole concept. I
do
like,
too.
Yeah, I didn't like the edit parts, even though they weren't that much different.
Well, I never liked Reader's Digest. I wouldn't read To Kill a Mockingbird in Reader's Digest, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Right. That's very true.
You know, so I want the whole story, you know, I don't want the clip notes, you know?
Right. And, you know, I mean, obviously, if y'all don't know, RiversIDe is from Poland, which I didn't even mention that earlier, but obviously by their names and the stuff, you could tell that they're from over there. So I've got a couple things about it, you know, the good and the bad, right? I mean, but honestly, I didn't really have a lot of bad on this.
No.
There was a couple times where a song sounded similar to something we already heard on the record, but not much.
Right.
You know, the one thing that I really wish, this is really probably my biggest criticism of the whole record, is it's just not really a criticism, don't get me wrong, but I wish the drummer would have taken a little more liberties, because I felt like there was areas where a couple of effect symbols could have worked out, right?
Well, I thought about that too, but you know, the landscape is so flooded with Thomas Lang's and Todd Suckerman's and stuff like that. To me, it was nice hearing a drummer set in the groove and play some tasteful riffs to make the changes in the music, you know, and not lead the band, but put the foundation there for the band to plant their feet on, you know. And I loved it. I loved it.
I just kind of wanted to hear a little Gavin Harris, you know.
Well, that would have been nice, but I mean, it's
he didn't have to. I'm just saying. I just wish.
I know what you're saying. You know, it's like I could have heard Gavin Harris playing all of this stuff, and it would have been a totally different outcome altogether.
Yeah.
You know, Todd Suckerman, same thing. If he'd have played it, oh my God, you'd had gong drums going off. It'd been, you know, double bass licks all over the place, and you know,
yeah. And don't get me wrong, what he did in this record was fantastic. And there, even when he did his double bass things, they were real subtle. They were at the perfect timing, you know,
on the money. Yep.
All of his roles were perfect. I mean, he brought you in and out of these things, and I thought he is a great drummer. I didn't think he was. He is a great drummer, and all the time signature stuff they were doing and all these syncopated things, he nailed it. But he definitely probably one of the better in the pocket drummers I've heard in Prog for a while, right? Because he never really veered, right? I mean, you knew he was there and he was going to carry it. So, not saying one of the better Prog pocket. I don't really know.
Well, I think to me, his playing reminded me a lot of Alan White, to be honest with you.
Exactly.
Alan White was not a flashy drummer.
Right.
Now, he covered all the parts that Bruford did with Yes. But when he did his own thing, it wasn't so mass approach that, I mean, you had to sit down and figure out what he did 5 minutes later. You know, you're still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And
with Alan White, he was just in there,
Yeah.
you know. So.
Yeah, he was a pocket drummer, but he also polished the song off with things. And I felt like this drummer did the same thing, maybe not to the level that Alan White did, but it was just a pleasure listening to somebody that I know I could sit down and play anything he did and not worry about it. You know, I mean, it might take me a little while to figure out some of the things he did.
Yeah.
But it wasn't so far out of reach, you know.
But that is a good comparison though, because he is like an Alan White type drummer.
Right.
You know,
Right.
he's definitely there. He can do all the intricacies, but he doesn't
Mhm.
have to because, you know, he's giving you what you need, you know.
Right. Right.
And I mean, if he wanted to, he definitely could have. Which is what I was saying. I mean, I just wish every now and then I would have liked to hear a little bit of an effect symbol or something in there.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
really hear a lot of it, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's it. I mean, that, you know, there really wasn't nothing to criticize on this record because I think from the cover all the way through each song, I think it was just a fantastic record, and I was very happy to listen to this, and I'm going to listen to it a lot because I just dug the crap out of it. Probably going to buy all their records, to tell you the truth.
Yeah. I'm probably going to back up and buy some of them too, you know, because I mean, immediately after streaming this one, it went into one of their older ones. And I got to tell you, you know, I had to really get up and check my computer to see did they actually start a new album. You
Right.
know? I mean, because it was right in that same pocket.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. You know.
And I like, I'll get to the stuff I liked a lot. First, I want to say it's a great sounding album. It was recorded fantastically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, every instrument sounded good. I think the drums sounded great. They were solid.
Oh
right?
yeah. Oh yeah.
The bass, fantastic. Keys, all of it. I think the interaction between the guitar and keys and bass was dead on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they worked so well with them three, especially since this guy is a new guitar player, even though he's been with him for about 6 years. Still, I mean, it was flawless, the interactions. The drummer was solid. The sound was solid. I mean, honestly, man, I tell you, I got to give this record probably a 9.4. You
Yeah,
know,
I'm gonna be right there with you. I'm gonna probably go with a 9.5 with it because I got to tell you, it didn't bother me. I mean, we got up this morning and I threw it on and was listening to it, and we're making coffee and stuff, and it was just one of those albums where you can get busy doing other things while you're listening to this, but you never get distracted because it always fit the form. It fit the mold perfectly. And the way they did their changes, I mean, I was in love with the whole sound of the whole thing. You know, I want to try and get a vinyl copy of it and really, really listen to it with the true dynamics and the depth and the open endedness of using analog on it. You know.
Well, if they record it in 45, it's going to be like 4 records.
Well, that's fine. I don't care.
I tell you though, it sounded so good loud. Like the louder I played it, the better it sounded. You know,
I'm sure. I'm sure.
So, and when I was in the car, I would drive and I'd listen to it, and then it would start over, and I actually couldn't wait to hear it again. I'm like, man, I can't wait to start all over and do it again. You know,
Good. Good.
So like every day driving in and work and back, because you know I have like an hour ride to work every day.
Yeah.
Probably listening to this CD twice, twice a day for 3 or 4 straight days. And then I came home and I cranked it on my stereo in here. I was like, man, it just sounds so good live. I mean, loud.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
And you know, one thing that he was saying too about it is that he feels like they're much better band live, that you get a better idea of them in a live aspect. So they kind of went for that sound on this record as opposed to other records. This one is like one of the first ones where they tried to get the live sound. And I think they did a great job. I mean, it's a pretty flawless record, man. I mean, it really is. I mean, there's not a whole lot here. And even though he says that, I mean, they did it in 3.5 months, right? Wrote this whole thing and recorded it in 3.5 months. And he said he needed like a week or 2 to finish it. So there's some stuff in there, he said, that weren't quite perfect. So they, their other records, he always kind of nitpicked until it was perfect. This one, he didn't have enough time, so he left some stuff, which is probably what gives it that live feel.
Right.
Because, the more you polish stuff, the less it sounds live and all that, and you try to get things perfect, and there was a couple times probably when you would go to like an end of a song, it sounded weird, or that little piano sonata part at the end of that one kind of was like jumped into it, sort of. I mean, I could see where he would have wanted to polish a couple things, but I wouldn't have done anything to it, man. I think it's great the way it is. I mean, it's pretty flawless to me. So,
yeah, to me it was too. I mean, I don't have any criticisms on what I heard, engineering wise or musically, tone wise, with any of the guitars, keys, or the basses. Drum wise, I stayed interested the whole time.
Yeah.
And never did I really have to actually sit there and go, wait a minute, what was that? And replay a section again. I mean, it all made sense, and it all made me want to hear the whole concept again. It wasn't about taking a piece out of the middle and going, I got to hear that again. It was about, no, let it play and then start it over again.
Right. And one thing I really liked about it as a prog rock record is I didn't get lost, right? Because you know how many times we've listened to some of the prog stuff and it's like, man, about halfway in the song, I'm like, I'm ready for it to be over, because I can't even comprehend some of the stuff that they're trying to do. And a lot of it is I don't even understand words. I mean, what are they even talking about, right? So when it's a prog album, when you can't figure out what they're talking about. But this one, this one here was pretty much flawless the whole time. I knew everything that he was talking about. I related to a lot of it. Everyone will, we'll all relate to what he's talking about because we've all been there, right?
Yeah.
So I just, I don't know, man. I just really liked it a lot. And I can't wait to go and dig into some more of their stuff, even though I have heard some things, but I've never really bought anything from them. This is the first thing I've ever purchased from them, and I think I'm going to go buy. I'm just going to start going backwards and seeing what else is going on. So,
well, I mean, and that's what this program's all about with us. I mean, the music talk is like to bring people into awareness of different things, and go back, reach back, and support the arts. Bottom line, support the arts. I mean, let's.
And I'll tell you, man, when me and Mike started this, it was really for ourselves. Because we were like, there's got to be some good music out there. So let's go find it. We'll just start doing reviews on whatever we can find and see how good it is. And I've been, out of the 80 videos we've done, I think there's only been maybe 10 that I really wish we wouldn't have listened to, right? But the other 70 have been like, wow, I'm so glad we went on this venture because now we're finding some good stuff, stuff that I probably wouldn't have pursued before.
Even. And I think out of those 10, I want to go back and give them a second shot and find out what else they're doing, or dig back earlier into their catalog.
Yeah.
Because I honestly believe that there are some of them that, especially in these past couple of years, with everything that everybody's been through, the lockdown and all that stuff, I think there's been a lot of stumbling, a lot of closed vision and stuff like that. And,
right.
I just think you gotta take the good with the bad and understand that even on the bad side, there's some good things.
Well, I can tell you, there's a couple CDs with this too that I would just assume.
Well, I know one.
I'm trying to give it away.
GBF.
I tried to give it away. The guy was like, I don't even want it. I'm like, there was a couple people. I was like, y'all like this? We'll take the CD. Like, no, I don't like that one. I'm like, anyways. So remember the other day when I was telling you about doing this album, the thing I'm going to say one more thing about this RiversIDe record, and I know it's going to sound terrible, but I told you that I really thought they sounded like what I was hoping the last Yes record we reviewed which should have sounded like.
Right.
Because I feel like they've taken prog rock and they're progressing it to a new level with RiversIDe is.
Yeah.
Maybe not a new level, but they're keeping it interesting, right?
Well, with Yes, the minute that John Anderson couldn't do it anymore, and Chris Squire passed away. That pretty much was the end of Yes.
Yeah, they should have just called it. Yeah.
And Trevor, I mean, okay, I mean, the guy, he's been in Yes since 90215 or whatever it was. And,
well, he's not on the newer stuff.
But I've watched that band.
I think Chris Squire was the glue to me.
Chris Squire was he was the founding member.
Yeah.
And he put it together. He had the vision.
Yeah.
He's the one that took the acid and took those trips and opened those doors, I mean,
which is why I don't understand half the stuff they talk about.
He was, and it really oh my God, the first 3 albums that Yes did, I couldn't get enough of them.
Yeah.
The Yes album, Fragile, and then Close to the Edge, I mean, oh my God.
Yeah.
But then once they progressed past Close to the Edge, I was like, it just started getting to be, I don't know, it didn't attract me the way Fragile did. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, for me, there were a couple albums where I really wasn't too much into. I think I got lost a lot on Tales of Topographic Oceans and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was too drawn out,
But I did love the there was a few records in there that I really did like, I liked some of the different changes of the lineup, but I just felt like you always had Chris Squire. Yeah. But when Chris Squire was done, even before they started bringing in that Billy Sherwood guy, and that just really, that really lost it for me, because now it's starting to sound like Billy Sherwood.
Yeah. Yep.
And if you don't like what I said, Billy, you can go ahead and post on here, because I know you have before. Yep. And if you feel like doing it again, go ahead. But my thing was, Riverside's taken it to a point where I wish the Yes album would have sounded more like it, because I like what they did on this record a lot. And I feel like this is the prog. I mean, I even like Porcupine Tree, but there's some times when I get bored with Porcupine Tree, right?
Yeah, their stuff at times is too drug out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
their passages are not. They're more soundscapes than anything else. It's not entertainment, it's more background noise at those times. And then all of a sudden they hit you, and it's like, yeah, well, there you go. I mean, and that makes it a little bit worthwhile. But it's just like, okay, like we were talking earlier, I mean, okay, I heard little drippings of Asia in this stuff. But the thing is, to me, Asia was boring.
Yeah.
You had these superstars, and that's the best thing they could come up with. Heat of the Night, Yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, that was like, are you kidding me?
There was a couple of good songs on that record.
Well,
but I think we're going for the pop songs. So.
Yeah, they were. I don't know. I mean,
we could go on all night about
this.
Oh
yeah. We could go on and on and on and on and on. All I know is in the early days, you had Vanilla Fudge, you had Trapeze, and then you had Yes, and you had Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and you had King Crimson. And need I say any more?
Right. Yeah, I know. It's crazy, right? Anyway, all right, we'll wrap it up. I know they're getting tired of hearing us. I'll cut some of this out. I'll cut the Billy Sherwood stuff out. Yeah, ain't nobody going. Billy Sherwood.
Billy, I'd like to meet you and interview you.
He don't like me. He don't like me at all. That's fine. All right, we'll wrap it up. Riverside, Identity or ID.entity, however you want to say it. As long as you say it, it's all good. Right. Riverside album, check it out. I gave it a 9.4. Mike gave it a 9.5.
9.5.
And if you don't believe Floyd Pepper and Animal, something wrong with you.
That's right. Just talk to the old men up in the balcony.
Yeah, we'll get to that. We're going to get to that eventually. We'll have them on. All right. Well, until next time, y'all stay safe.
That's right. Peace out and listen to the music.